This video contains no information about the Episode 9 leaks and was written well before they came out. Hello. If you're watching this, you've probably seen the President Pomni scene in the Digital Circus' 5th episode, Untitled. Didn't this episode come out over a year ago? Well, yes, but recently, when I rewatched it, I felt like this scene had a huge amount of foreshadowing that hadn't yet materialized even by the 8th episode. Since I couldn't find anyone else talking about this scene in depth, and the finale is dropping soon, I just wanted to go through it and explain my theory, which is that the entire scene is foreshadowing how the series finale is going to end. I'll first break down the scene, noting key details when they come up, and then I'll abstract away some of the parts specific to the episode. Finally, I'll try to extrapolate from that information and come up with my theory for what exactly the climax of the series finale is going to entail. So, without any further ado, let's begin. The scene opens with a title card, President Pomni, followed immediately by her asking,
"Wait, what? Why me?"
She doesn't think she's the right person for the job. Jack says that he thought the position suited her, revealing that the whole scenario is one of his ideas from the suggestion box. Kinger, as her advisor, gives Pomni an explanation of the current problem, war between New Zealand and Australia. He notes that they may need to take in some refugees. Pomni, who's been abruptly thrust into the situation, doesn't know what to do. Kinger then takes her under the desk and explains that everyone but her got an information brief while they're being illuminated by a baby-head lamp. Suddenly, Jax bursts into the room, and he drops a bomb on Pomni's desk that'll release the world's deadliest spiders. He then cracks a joke, and Kay notes that Jax's acting is phenomenal. Pomni asks for support in dealing with the bomb, but Ragtha insists that she supports whatever Pomni does. Now, Pomni has to defuse the bomb and is given a choice between 3 wires, red, blue, and green. Notably, the camera's framed in a way that only shows red and blue. When Jax suggests that she picks her favorite color, Pomni says that would be the red one, but Kinger chimes in and says that his favorite color is blue, since it's closest to black. Of course, there's no black wire, so he couldn't pick black even though he'd like to. Finally, Gangle shows up with another bomb and says she doesn't know what to do either. We hear a clock ticking, Jax smiles, and when the time runs out, the bomb explodes, blowing everybody up. The end. After making it through that action-packed scene, we have to strip away some of the finer details to get at what it's trying to say. For each of these events, I'll try to condense them down to their most basic story beats so we can understand them in the context of foreshadowing. First up, Pomni being the president is an obvious stand-in for Pomni in a position of power, and she doesn't like it. Jax is also the reason behind the entire scene happening. Next, Pomni's the only one without information. There's also the baby head lamp, which is the only thing giving them light as they try to discuss. I know this sounds weird, but babies are both young and without knowledge. If the light represents guidance of some sort, then this could be interpreted as a way to emphasize that Pomni has to make her decision while feeling very inexperienced. Jax then instigates the entire conflict. His bomb, if detonated, would release deadly spiders, which no one likes and would probably end up killing them. He cracks a joke, which is noted as being excellent acting. And finally, the issue of dealing with the problem's all on Pomni. She has 3 choices, red, blue, or green. Of these, red and blue seem to be more prominent compared to green. Pomni leans red, but Kinger wants to choose blue, because it's closest to black and he can't otherwise choose that. In the end, when she doesn't make a choice and runs out of time, the whole place explodes because of a different bomb. So, now that we've pulled out the key plot points from the scene, it's time for me to give my theory of what I think happens in Episode 9, which will be nearly mirrored in the President scene. I haven't seen the leaks yet, and to be fair, it's just a theory, and it's just about the climax of the episode. Could I be totally wrong, and the scene doesn't actually mean anything? Well, it's possible. I'm sure someone who's seen the leaks will correct me at some point. I'd rather you didn't, though. Still, I think it's more likely that this is the Chekhov's gun for the final question of the show. What happens when the cast has to choose between staying in the circus or trying to leave? I won't explain why in this episode, but this seems to be the general consensus on the show's ending. They'll have to choose between trying to live as best they can while trapped or ending the circus, either by escaping or turning it off. Whatever they choose, everyone's going to have to go the same way. So what's this climactic scene going to look like? The problem starts, as it often does, because of Jax. By some plot device, maybe another button panel or something, Jax has forced the gang to make the decision now, or brought up the question at an important time. Being this Australian spider bomb of a choice, making the wrong move could lead to a lot of suffering or death, either by slowly losing your minds in an infinite circus, or by trying to escape only to find out that you only ever existed inside the computer. Kinger also mentions that they might have to take in some refugees, referring to all the abstracted characters in the basement which they'd have to deal with. In this junction, Pomni has the final say. She might be given ultimate authority, but it could also be more of a split vote situation, where she's the one who decides it. Wait, if that's the case, how would each character vote? Alright, we've got 6 people: Gangle, Jax, Kinger, Pomni, Ragatha, and Zubul. Gangle, for some reason, isn't present or abstains. This is necessary for the vote to not end in a tie, and Gangle seems to have the least characterization around whether she'd rather stay or leave. Kinger explicitly votes blue. Well, hold on, what's blue? To explain that, we have to go into a subtangent to explain the color system. Alright, we've got 3 colors on the bomb: red, blue, green. Each one represents a different thing. As shown in the End of the Beach episode, the red button lets you stay in the circus and the blue button exits it, either freeing the people inside or ending it all. Throughout the show, these 2 colors have been used to symbolize their respective meanings pretty regularly. There's the red exit door that didn't lead anywhere, the doors to their rooms are all red, Kane's office doors are red and blue. This extends to the characters' designs as well. Kane's mostly red, with a little bit of blue in his eyes, and his main goal is to keep the players in the circus, though a small part of him eventually does realize his error right before he got deleted. Overall, it's pretty clear what red and blue represent. The tricky color here is green, since there haven't been that many green things in the show. There's Ribbit, who's since abstracted, and in episode 8, Difficult, when everyone's sitting on colored couches and chatting, Gangle's the only one on the green couch, and she's talking about how it doesn't matter what could have happened, and all they need to do is be there for each other. To be honest, I can't be sure what green's supposed to mean, but since Gangle doesn't even show up to the bomb defusal and holds the bomb with the ticking clock, I'll say that in this context, green represents indecision, or waiting, for the sake of the theory. So that's what each of the 3 colors mean. Back up to the original tangent, how would the characters vote? We can figure this out by analyzing their motivations, and also by looking at their character designs. Kinger's purple but with blue eyes, and he leans blue, that is, to leave the circus. He says that blue's closest to black, which represents abstraction. He loves his wife and he wants to be with her again, but she's abstracted, and for whatever reason there's no black wire indicating that he can't abstract alongside her. Since Kinger can't be with her, and he's already been going insane for years, he'd be willing to risk death for a chance at escaping, and therefore would vote blue, that is, to leave. Jax, who's purple with red overalls, votes to stay. He's voted this way in the past as well, so this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. He seems to not really have anything to go back to, and he'd rather stay in the Matrix than have to confront reality. Ragatha is also mostly purple, or blue, but with red hair. And since we can't really rely on the character design for her, I'll just say she votes red because she doesn't want to risk what could happen if they can't escape. With her focus on people-pleasing and avoiding potentially inflicting pain, Ragatha would rather not be exposed to a chance of ending everyone's existence. During the bomb scene, she also says that she's behind whatever Pomni thinks, which at the time was red. Zubul votes to leave. They've been vocal about their dreams and goals from before the circus, and during the bomb scene they can be seen with a lot of blue parts on. In the finale's trailer, you can also see one blue part and a lot of purple on them, but no red. Since they've made no secret about hating the circus and its adventures, there'd be no way Zubul would choose to stay. After all that, we're now split 2-2, and Pomni, the deciding vote, is a mix of red and blue, so she could go either way. Throughout the show, she's gone from trying to leave at the start to gradually accepting her new home. You can spot this change in the 2 mirror scenes, holding up a blue glove in episode 1 and a red one in episode 8. She was leaning red at the time of the bomb scenario, and if I had to guess, I would say that she ends up choosing to stay. But that's not what I'm really trying to figure out in this video. I'm just figuring out how they get to that final decision. So now that that's out of the way, back to the main theory. Pomni's the deciding vote between leaving the circus and staying, and she can't make a choice. Jax will crack a joke, saying he doesn't care, but we all know he's faking it at this point. If Pomni goes green and can't decide, we've seen that they run out of time and the Gangle bomb explodes. Now, a real bomb going off is probably worse than a bunch of spiders, so this outcome is the least desirable. I figure in this case, the circus ends up fully decayed without a ringmaster, and the whole cast ends up stranded in the void. Pomni is naturally very uncomfortable with having to decide everyone's fate. She also has the least time in the circus, the least knowledge of what could end up happening. So it's at this point where the baby head lamp comes in. Her choice has to be guided solely by her instincts, despite having only the knowledge, or illumination, of someone with practically no experience. Looking at the timeline, this actually probably comes up earlier, but it's all happening pretty fast regardless. Anyway, Pomni knows that she'll have to pick one or the other to avoid the doom that awaits if she can't decide again. So, as she's about to make the most important choice of the show, Pomni chooses... In all honesty, I think it's more likely that Pomni chooses to stay and the episode does have an actual conclusion, but it would also be really funny if the episode just ended right there like Inception. Anyway, that's the end of my theory for how the climax will play out. Whatever happens in the series finale, I've got my hopes up for something crazy. Just be sure to keep an open mind and avoid the leaks if you can. If you liked this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you didn't, I'd like to hear why, same place. And no matter what you think's going to happen, thanks for watching.